Warning: if you are against the consumptive use and the ethical harvest of fur bearing animals, please leave this channel now. This is no place for pansies, sissies, or crybabies. Hey trappers, Dale Billingsley here, Billingsley Brand Lures. So guys, what I kind of want to go over with you today is snares or cable restraints, depending on what states you live in as to the correct vernacular for your area. Um, Now that the weather is starting to turn pretty crappy for the majority of the United States, snares or cable restraints are going to become your best friend in order to go out there and still take fur. Um, it's going to be really tough and really hard for a lot of y'all to continue to keep uh, foothold traps working. Now, you can do this. I mean, you can keep footholds working. I've done it. I've seen several guys do it. But snares are going to become more and more prevalent, or at least they should, on your line, especially if you're working predators. Um, if you live in a state that doesn't allow snaring or cable restraints, then what you need to do is start lobbying for them, guys, because they are a heck of a tool. They're a heck of an asset to us. Uh, you know, it allows you to continue to take fur when everybody else is shut down. That's the biggest thing. These things work in all kinds of weather, other than if you get a lot of hoarfrost or freezing rain, something of that sort. And there are things that you can do to keep those snares working. It's just not anything I want to put out to the general public on YouTube. Sorry, guys. Uh, it's I bought and paid for my education in more ways than one. So anyway, enough of that. We'll move on. So snares, and I've gone over this several times before in some of my past videos, but I feel like it's worth going over again. The biggest thing with snaring, where everybody makes their mistake when they very first start, is they want to hang that lock in the 12 o'clock position. And that is the absolute wrong thing to do, because number one, it puts a lot of drag on things. It slows that snare down. And then not only that, but any little thing that comes along, could be a rabbit, a squirrel, a strong wind, anything that brushes up against this, it will knock it down. Well, then it's rendered useless to you. So the thing you want to do is get that lock over there in that 10 o'clock or the 2 o'clock position, depending on which side of the trail you're hanging it on. That's where you want that lock. What that does then, it's like paying tension on a foothold trap. Once it gets to a certain place, it fires, and it fires all at once. That's what you're after right there. The other thing is, they don't get that snare supported solid. Now you can see, or I hope you can anyway, I've got that little piece of polytubing on there for a support collar. That's where your number 9 wire goes into, or your number 11 gauge, whichever one that you can get. Sometimes you have a hard time getting that soft black anneal number 9, but you can get the soft black 11 gauge, and both work just fine for snare support. But that's what that's on there for. You run that number 9 or your number 11 gauge in there, and then that gets it stable, solid on your support. And the next thing is getting your support solid. Everything has to be solid always when you're running trap. I don't care if it's foothold, conibear, snare, what it is. You don't want anything tippy or rocky. Everything has to be supported or bedded solid. Okay? So when you bed these things, or not bed them, I'm sorry, but when you support these things, you've got to get them good and solid. You don't want it flopping around out there, and you don't want it moving and all this. So it's got to be done solidly. The next thing is the center swivel. I run a 600-pound test Roscoe crane swivel. Now, I'm having a hard time finding these now. But I do know that Cumberland's carries them. I'm sure Snare Shop does. Or not Snare Shop, gosh darn it. Funkies up here in Iowa, I'm sure they carry them as well. I'm sure you can find them. And it's just a 600-pound test Roscoe crane swivel. Now, you cannot use a regular barrel fishing swivel. Do not think you can get by with that. They will explode it. They will walk away with it. So don't be silly enough to try to use that. You can also use just a regular end snare swivel in here. You don't have to use this. You can use just a regular snare swivel. You can use a box swivel in here if you prefer. I prefer these because my snares are all built exactly the same. I didn't build this snare, Mike did. My swivels go right up to where when I open my snare to the loop that I want, the swivel is right here. Okay, that's where I put mine. That does two things. Number one, it keeps that swivel close to the animal where it belongs. Okay, that's very important. Number two, if you have a restriction on the size of loop that you can run on dry ground, what that does by putting that swivel right there, nobody can come along and open your snare up 1 more inch and then call the game warden on you. And believe me, I've seen guys try to do that. Never had it happen to me, but I have seen guys try to do it to other folks. There are some pretty jealous people out here, so you got to keep an eye on everything all the time. But anyway, try to put that swivel right there. That's where it goes. Okay. And that's pretty much it. Then make sure that you're legal with the style of lock, whether you have to run a solid one-piece lock or you can run a cam lock or whatever. If you have to run a breakaway, make sure you run a breakaway. Here in Iowa, we're required to run a deer stop. I would like to see that changed. And if you live in a state where you're going to try to lobby for snares, make sure that you word the bill right before you present it. Make sure that you word it to where it's left up to the trapper as to whether he wants to run a deer stop or a breakaway. That way you're not hindering yourself. You're not tying your own hands that way, guys. It'll work out a lot better for you in the long run, trust me. So anyway, other than that, my staking on the other end, I just run these split rings. I get mine from Cumberland's. I've never had one of these fail from an animal yet. I'm going to try they make them one size smaller. Where this is a 1/2 inch instead of the big inch hole. I'm going to try those on those new number 11s we bought down in Louisiana this year. I'm going to give those a shot. I've had guys tell me that they're a lot better than what these big ones are. So I don't know. We'll see. And then as far as the stake, you can run whatever you choose. I run the Pogos. Mike likes the heavy-duty Berkshires. That's entirely up to you as to what you want to try to run. And basically, that's about it, guys. That's about all I had. Like I said, this weather's going to go to getting bad on you. Snares are going to become your friends. If you want to continue to take fur, I would highly recommend that you look into snaring. And like I said, you can go back some of my older videos in my playlist. There's a lot of information on there about building snares and running snares and setting snares. So anyway, appreciate y'all watching. If you would please just hit that thumbs up for me. That's all I'm asking. Once again, this is Dale Billingsley with another one. Signing out.